Hi guys, my name is Levin Tikharia, and the topic which we're going to cover today is job work under goods and services tax. So if you're someone who's probably planning to start up a factory or start something on your own and keeping few job workers under you, this would be a very great chapter, very interesting chapter for you. Or if you want to be a manager who wants to manage an entire factory, I think that would be very relevant. But it goes without saying that if you don't have any plans about these two, still you'll have to learn it. So something about me: my name is Devin Tikharia. I am from BCom honors final year from University of Delhi Bhagat Singh College. My roll number is 452, and the book I've referred today is Goods and Services Tax and Custom Laws by Dr. Sonal Babbar. So just to encapsulate you about what we're going to learn today, we'll start with the basic definition of job work. We'll go by the process that is involved in job work, the important points we need to remember, and the relaxations which are provided under job work to workers and to the manufacturers. So this is really important. Provisions for waste clearance. So what happens is when a certain work is done in the raw materials, there's waste or scrap generated. So we'll talk about that in depth. And at last, we'll talk about transactional provisions. So we'll talk about how the policies work before the introduction of GST and what are the benefits which we have gained after the GST has been introduced. So let's start.
So this is just some basic information about me, and let's move on. Okay, so what exactly is job work? Going by the definition of job work, any treatment or process undertaken by a person on goods belonging to another person. Now, for our class, we will consider this another person as principal or manufacturer. Okay, so we'll call him manufacturer. What happens is there is a person X who is the manufacturer, and he or she has some sort of input or raw materials. Okay, now he wants his goods to be processed. Now, this process can be anything such as assembling, packaging, basic labeling. So, what he does is he sends his goods to the premise of job worker. Okay, his premise. And the job worker does the work what was assigned to him, be it labeling, packaging, everything. Okay, so as soon as the work is done and finished good is ready, he sends the finished good back to the manufacturer or sells it to the customer from that sales, right? So I'll just explain this to you with a basic example. Suppose you have a shirt. Okay, so you are the manufacturer of that shirt or the principal of that shirt. Now you want to do the fitting of the shirt, so you give the shirt to the tailor and he does the fitting and gives it back to you back. In this case, tailor is the job worker, right? And you are the principal or manufacturer. Now, one thing to be taken care of here is that it should be another person. If the task is done by the person itself, this would not be considered as job work. Okay. The second thing is it should be on the premise of the job worker and not on the premise of the manufacturer. If it is in the premise of the manufacturer, it would be considered as a worker of manufacturer and not a separate job worker. Right. So we move on to the next slide. Process of job work. This is one of the most important topics. Now I'll tell you how it starts. So it starts from manufacturer. He or she is the manufacturer of the good. He sends raw materials or semi-processed goods. Okay, semi-processed good to a job worker from where he wants the work to be done. And this was, of course, could be anything: processing, assembling, packaging, labeling, whatever. Okay, so the manufacturer tells the job worker to process, assemble, or packaging and everything. And after he's done with the work, suppose he is not able to do the task whatever was assigned to him, or he only has a limited manpower or skill to do processing, and the manufacturer wants assembling as well. So this job worker sends the products to another worker. He completes the given task and then he sells to the customer directly, or it could be returned back to the manufacturer where he or she would give a final touch up and then sell it to customer, right? So the thing here to note is, after the work is done by another worker or the worker itself, it can be directly sold to the customer, or it can be returned to the manufacturer. This is the point here. The manufacturer outsources the work which he cannot do. Okay, so I'll just explain it to you with a basic example. Bata buys leather. Okay, now the polishing of leather needs to be done. So Bata sends it to a job worker. He polishes the leather and then sends it to someone who will do the finishing or cutting or basic job. Okay, he is another job worker, and this worker can either sell the final product or send it back to Bata, where Bata decides that they'll put their label on or do something and then sell it. So this is the process of job worker. Okay, let's move to the next slide. So points to be remembered here. Now this is something which we all need to remember. Ownership of goods remains with the manufacturer. Okay, I'll just give you an example again. So suppose this is your shirt. Okay, please don't mind my drawing. This is your shirt, and suppose कि इसकी फिटिंग आपको ढंग से नहीं आई, ठीक से आपको उसकी फिटिंग नहीं आई. So what you do is you give it to tailor. Now the tailor does the fitting and returns it back to you. So in this entire process, you are the complete owner of the good, not the tailor, right? You only remain the owner of the goods. So that is what is mentioned here. Now the next point is, job worker helps in manufacturing process as per instructions given by the manufacturer, right? So again, so if you tell the tailor that you need the size to be increased, he or she will just increase the size. He won't do anything else. Other than that, he can probably not do anything of his own. That probably he'll say कि इसका मैं color change कर देता हूँ or something like that. So whatever the manufacturer assigns, job worker will do the same according to the given instructions. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Job work under GST. ठीक है, तो job workers are mainly daily wage earners. So this is what the GST committee knows, that India is a poor country where the job workers are basically daily wage earners and they don't have financial resources to comply with all the provisions. We understand that later on. Okay, so this is what it is written here, that unable to comply with the provisions of the law. So the government or the people know that ठीक है, ये जो जॉब वर्कर्स होते हैं ये लोग डेली वेज वर्कर रहते हैं और इनके पास उतना रिसोर्सेज नहीं होता कि भाई ये लोग जो प्रोविजंस होते हैं लॉ के उसको कंप्लाई कर पाए. So to comply with the resources you need an accountant, You probably need all the documents to be on time. You probably need a proper functioning of all the resources and probably your transactions, right? So which cannot be complied with a job worker, and that is why they know it. So many procedure relaxations are given to the job worker to make their task easy, and under the GST Act, which we will study in depth later on. Procedure relaxations given to the job workers and to the manufacturer itself. Okay, so that is what is given here. That relaxation benefit to both manufacturer as well as job workers are given. आई जस्ट इनकैप्सुलेट एवरीथिंग अगेन. सो क्या होता है कि भाई इस जीएसटी में ना, इसमें उनका जो कमिटी है उनको पता है कि भाई ये जो जॉब वर्कर्स हैं, जो डेली वेज वर्कर्स होते हैं, इनके पास उतना फाइनेंशियल रिसोर्सेज नहीं होता कि इन लोग कंप्लाई कर पाए पूरे रिसोर्सेज से. इतना कॉम्प्लेक्स जो रिसोर्स है, ठीक है, इतना कॉम्प्लेक्स जो टैक्सेशन पॉलिसी है. सो इनको बहुत सारे के रिलैक्सेशन दिए हुए हैं जीएसटी ने कि भाई आप ये इसका फायदा उठा सकते हैं, इसका ये कर सकते हैं. वी लर्न अबाउट दैट इन डेप्थ. And with the relaxation होते हैं वो both, because manufacturers are giving employment to the job workers, that is why both of them enjoy the benefit of it. Relaxations under GST, this is what is really important. No tax is to be paid for removal of input capital goods to be sent for job work. Okay, so suppose this is manufacturer. He or she sends his input goods or capital goods to the job worker, right? Inputs or capital goods. So this is also a kind of supply, right? Now wherever supply will happen, GST तो वहाँ लगेगा ही, right? But because it is a relaxation under GST, इनको जिसमें GST नहीं देना पड़ेगा. No GST would be eligible for this. ठीक है. So for this, the manufacturer must be registered under GST. If he or she is not registered under the GST, ये relaxation उनको नहीं मिलेगा. Inputs after processing or capital goods must be refunded within 1 or 3 years respectively. So what happens is manufacturer sends his or her goods to the job worker. ठीक है. So now this can be of two types. First is inputs. Second is capital goods. Okay, capital goods is like a machinery, say iron smelting plant or probably a factory में जो भी machine होते हैं वो. So if the job worker does not return the finished products or probably the capital products within 1 or 3 years, this would be considered as a sale. Okay, if not returned within the above time limit, then it will be considered as sold to the job worker, and tax will have to be paid by the manufacturer, right? So see, we saw here that इसके inputs में supply में कुछ GST नहीं देना पड़ रहा था. But अगर ये जो job worker है, ये 1 साल input का, 3 साल capital goods का अगर वापस नहीं करता है, so the manufacturer will have to bear the GST at the given rate according to the GST standards. Alright, so this is what it wanted to say. Next, relaxations under GST. So input tax credit available for goods directly sent to the job worker. Okay. So what happens is, this is the manufacturer. ठीक है. तो ये जो मैन्युफैक्चरर होगा, ये अपने जो गुड्स होते हैं वो भेजता है जॉब वर्कर को. But this manufacturer might have bought the inputs from somewhere else, right? So for this, he'll enjoy ITC, input tax credit, right? He'll enjoy it. Manufacturer can directly sell his goods from the premise of the job worker. So what happens is, manufacturer job worker को अपने inputs भेजा, वहां पे बन गया final goods. Now the manufacturer can sell the final goods directly from the premise of the job worker, right? For that, he has to declare the premise of the job worker as his additional place of business. So, he'll have to make a declaration that the manufacturer has used an additional place of business, which is the premise of the job worker. If the job worker is registered under GST, above declaration is not required. So, what happens that sometimes the job worker itself is GST registered. So, in that case, the manufacturer will not have to do this declaration. No liability of job worker to maintain detailed accounting records. Right. So as we discussed that, the job workers are poor people, they earn very minimum income. So they don't have to maintain proper accounting records. It is all the headache of the manufacturer. He will have to hire accountants and make a detailed records of all the transactions or all the things happening, all the financial transactions taking place. Right. Provision for waste clearing. Now I tell you what is really waste. Okay, so this is manufacturer. He sells, he sends the goods to the job worker. Now, in the premise of job worker, when he's processing all the goods, assembling, labeling, everything, so a lot of scrap is generated. Okay, so this scrap can be sold either by the job worker or by the manufacturer itself. Now, because the scrap has a value and it is charged under GST, GST will have to be paid when the sales are made. Okay, so that's what we'll see. Job waste clearing means sale of waste generated during the process of job work at premise of the job worker. This is what we studied right now. Waste clearing may be done by payment of tax by the job worker if he is registered under GST. So if the job worker wants to sell it and he is registered under the GST, he'll have to pay the taxes and he can sell it. If the job worker is unregistered, then the principal may sell the waste of on payment of the tax. The principal here is the manufacturer. And if the job worker is unregistered, manufacturer will have to pay the GST on the sale of the goods. Okay, this is what is said here. Transitional provisions. Okay, so this is something which we'll talk about. Transitional provisions are basically old regimes to new regimes. ठीक है, so GST के आने के पहले भी कुछ था, है ना? There was tax system. So what are the changes that took place that we'll discuss here? So inputs or partially processed input sent to a job worker prior to introduction of GST will not attract GST if the following conditions are satisfied. ठीक है? So manufacturer, job worker, and this is the input which he sent or the capital good. ठीक है? Now GST was introduced on 07/17. ठीक है? Up what it says is the goods are returned to the factory of the principal within 6 months from the date in which GST came into force. अब ये मैन्युफैक्चरर था, ये अपने इनपुट और जो कैपिटल गुड्स था वो जॉब वर्कर को भेज दिया. Now if the job worker sends back the finished goods or everything 6 months from this date, GST नहीं लगेगा इसमें. ठीक है, वरना GST लग जाएगा. Second declaration is a declaration relating to the above will have to be given by the principal job worker for goods sent received for job work in prescribed format GST trend within 90 days from introduction of GST. ठीक है, तो what this basically means is एक declaration देना पड़ेगा either the manufacturer or the job worker which is known as tran 1 कि ठीक है कि मेरे पास ये सब गुड्स हैं और मैं इसमें काम हो रहा है 90 डेज के अंदर अंदर, 90 डेज, 90 डेज फ्रॉम दिस डेट, वरना इसमें जीएसटी लग जाएगा। ठीक है। एंड द नेक्स्ट इज एनी सप्लाई सेल ऑफ above semi finished finished goods before expiry of 6 months from the date on which GST came into force is done only on payments of GST except where the goods are exported outside India. So this I think pretty much explains itself what it really means. Now, if the conditions are not satisfied, ITC will be recovered by the government. Okay, so what we saw is the manufacturer enjoys ITC if these conditions are not met. So the manufacturer will not able to enjoy it, and the government will probably recover the ITC from this. Okay, so this is what the entire chapter of job work under goods and services tax was. I think I explained almost everything and covered whatever was given in the book. Apart from this, if you need a detailed note relating to the acts and provisions, I have clearly made a note about it and have linked that in the description below. Check it out, download it, and study the acts and everything from there. Because I've explained you everything, all the terms and all the process, I think you'll be able to grasp all the concepts very clearly. Thank you.